Ever noticed how people who grew up in the 1970s seem calm in chaos, almost untouchable by stress? That's not luck. There's psychology behind it. Let's break it down. Your brain doesn't just adapt to the world around you. It carries the imprint of the childhood you lived. And if you were a kid in the 70s, your brain developed in a rare intersection of freedom and responsibility, a combination that no longer exists. Most people who grew up then look at today's hyper-connected generation and quietly shake their heads, not in judgment, but in understanding. They know something we don't. They lived through a type of childhood that can't be manufactured. They spent afternoons outside until the streetlights flickered on, climbing trees that scraped the sky, biking down hills without helmets, building forts in the woods. And yet, when they think back, they say things like, "We were feral, and it felt alive." So what did all of that freedom do to your brain? And why do these people seem almost untouchable by the trivial chaos of modern life? The first trait is self-directed problem solving. You weren't handed activities, you weren't scheduled, you were told, find something to do or I'll find something for you. That phrase meant something different back then. If you claimed boredom, suddenly you were folding clothes, raking leaves, inventing a game from nothing. You learned to create your own purpose, and your brain reinforced the ability to generate direction from emptiness. This is why they read books for hours, explored neighborhoods alone, or built forts in the woods without anyone telling them what to do. Their brain didn't just fill time, it thrived on inventing it. And it's also why, decades later, they can sit in silence without panic. Their minds were never conditioned to crave constant stimulation. They learned early that waiting, thinking, and reflecting are not threats, they are skills. The next trait is adaptive risk calibration. Climbing dangerously high trees, biking recklessly, or experimenting with fire wasn't accidental. Every scraped knee, every minor disaster, every close call taught their nervous system something crucial: the difference between real danger and manageable risk. Modern children rarely experience this. Back then, risk was an instructor. Pain was feedback. You learned by living it, not watching it on a screen. That's why a 70s kid can walk into chaos today and immediately start solving problems while others panic. Think about the nervous system. Repeated exposure to manageable danger rewires the threat response. Your brain begins to evaluate situations analytically rather than reactively. The cuts, bruises, and broken bones weren't just physical. They were training sessions for mental resilience. But here's where it gets subtler. They developed what psychologists call comfortable solitude capacity. Hours spent lying in the grass, staring at clouds, or listening to a record alone wasn't loneliness. It was exposure to silence. It trained their brain to be calm in their own company. Studies today show that people unaccustomed to quiet feel anxiety when alone. You didn't. Your boredom wasn't an emergency. You didn't need notifications or entertainment every 3 seconds. You became capable of thought, reflection, and patience by simply existing. It wasn't just about patience in the abstract. It was the development of what cognitive scientists call intrinsic attention, the ability to focus without external prompts, to create entertainment, curiosity, and purpose internally. That's a mental muscle younger generations rarely get to exercise. This ties into analog patience, waiting for your favorite show, developing photos, memorizing a phone number to call a friend. These were exercises in delay. Every waiting period strengthened impulse control and attention. Instant gratification rarely satisfies them. They experienced reward loops differently. They learned that anticipation itself carries meaning, and that the moment of fulfillment is worth the wait. Their neural circuits learned patience as a form of power rather than frustration. Then there's unsupervised autonomy wiring. A 7-year-old riding a mile out of town, going where they pleased, deciding what to explore without tracking, without constant oversight. Their brain became wired for independent decision-making, assessment, and consequence management. Parents were authority, not friend. The street, the creek, the woods, they were classrooms without structure. Every choice, small or large, left a mark on the mind, reinforcing competence over dependency.
You became someone capable of assessing risk, solving problems, and navigating uncertainty long before adulthood. Consider the subtle psychological effect. Every small decision without supervision created a feedback loop of confidence. Each misstep, each minor disaster, each small victory rewired your brain to trust yourself first. That's not arrogance, it's survival wiring. Add to this social improvisation. 70s kids weren't scheduled. They didn't have playdates or structured activities. They had to negotiate, collaborate, and invent games on the fly. Their social brain learned to read cues, anticipate reactions, and manage conflict intuitively. Contrast that with today's children, whose interactions are filtered through screens, schedules, and parental oversight. A 70s child developed subtle social algorithms naturally, predicting, adapting, cooperating, and even leading without being instructed. And there's curiosity-driven endurance. With few distractions and no immediate content at hand, children learn to follow curiosity to its limits. Hours in the woods, experimenting with chemistry sets, taking apart gadgets. This wasn't play. This was brain sculpting. Their neural pathways grew long, flexible, and exploratory. You can see the result in adults today. A 70s kid can dive into a problem for hours without noticing time, extract patterns quickly, and adapt flexibly. Modern minds are optimized for fast stimulation, not deep exploration. All these mechanisms, self-directed problem-solving, adaptive risk calibration, comfortable solitude, analog patience, unsupervised autonomy, social improvisation, and curiosity-driven endurance interact quietly. Each reinforces the others. Independence strengthens patience, risk tolerance strengthens curiosity, solitude strengthens self-directed problem-solving. So when you see someone who grew up in the 70s and think, they're just calm, even cold, remember this, it's not personality, it's patterned mental wiring, honed over hours, days, and years of freedom. The independence that looks like detachment is competence. The silence that looks like apathy is reflection. The patience that seems indifference is discipline. Most people will say, I feel lucky to have grown up this way, or we had something that's gone forever. And they're right. For a brief moment in history, childhood was both free and formative. A world where autonomy, risk, patience, and curiosity sculpted minds capable of calm and chaos. You can't recreate it. You can only recognize it. And perhaps for the first time, understand why they move through the world differently, silently carrying skills and wiring that the modern world can no longer produce. A quiet question lingers. If our environment shapes us so profoundly, what parts of your own childhood are quietly directing who you've become?